I snapped at my pregnant wife because she won't let me near our baby.
That's his baby.
I have been with my wife for 4 years. My 5-year-old Leslie is from my first long-term relationship during college. We split shortly after her birth as my then partner admitted to being unfaithful and not being ready to start a family. By the way, this comes from Afraid Strawberry on the Best of Redditor Updates subreddit. So, my daughter loves my wife. They are inseparable. My ex doesn't have much to do with my daughter or myself, except to cause the occasional drama. She did not want any custody or visitation time, so my wife is her mother for all intents and purposes. My wife is almost 8 months pregnant. She has shut me out of the entire pregnancy, but refuses to admit anything is wrong. I feel completely ignored and hurt. When we first learned she was pregnant, she told me while I was making breakfast. Of course, I was elated. However, since it was an unplanned pregnancy, I asked how she was feeling at first. She began smiling and crying about how excited she is. I picked her up, gave her a million kisses, and told her I was so excited to have a baby too, and what a wonderful mother she would be. All good, right?
Nuts.
She went all out to announce to everyone else, balloons and boxes, t-shirts, and best big sister mugs. I assume the casual announcement with me is because she wanted my feelings on growing our family before celebrating. However, when her sister asked about how I liked my box, my wife quickly said, "He didn't get one. This isn't his first rodeo." It was like pulling teeth to get her to let me go to the ultrasound appointments. She didn't want me to miss work, didn't want to interrupt Leslie's routine. Excuse after excuse. When it came to listening to the heartbeat, my wife instantly started crying happy tears. The tech was telling her how strong the heartbeat was, how precious our little one was, etc. I was feeling a bit emotional and cleared my throat to prevent crying. The tech said, "Aw, Dad, isn't that sound beautiful?" My wife immediately said, "This isn't his first child. It's not that special for him." Why is she gatekeeping? I immediately said, "This is one of the most important moments of my life. I can't think of anything more special." The atmosphere was clearly awkward after. Another thing that bothered me, I heard Leslie and my wife's mom laughing in the living area. I was in the kitchen making dinner. When I walked in and asked what the fuss was about, Leslie was touching my wife's stomach and was laughing with excitement that the baby was moving and it would be so cute. My wife let my daughter and mother-in-law feel the baby move before me. I was hurt, but simply said how happy I was. Later that night, my wife was poking her belly and laughing. I asked her to feel as well, and she said, "You felt Leslie move as a baby. What can be better than that? She was the cutest baby ever." She has felt pretty poorly throughout her pregnancy, but refuses to let me help her. If I bring her a snack and drink, she offers it to our daughter. If I try and rub her feet or legs, she asks me to play with our daughter so she doesn't feel like she's being replaced or ignored. I simply do not ignore my daughter. We have bonding time. I'm an active parent, but I want to love my wife. She can hardly eat, but when I asked her what I can prepare for her, it's whatever Leslie wants. We went to the zoo with Leslie and my wife started feeling bad. She had cramps and was considering going to the hospital, severe nausea and dizziness. I carry her to a bench nearby and she began to cry, saying she can't even stand up. I told her, "Let me call an ambulance or I'll carry you to the car and drive you." She said she didn't want to ruin Leslie's trip and we didn't even make it to the aviary, Leslie's favorite part. I said I wasn't leaving when she asked me to continue to go through the zoo with Leslie. We sat for a while until her dad showed up. She didn't even tell me he was coming, and he took her to the doctor. I was shocked and followed them with Leslie. When we arrived, Leslie was upset about missing the aviary and pouting. At that point, the health of my wife and unborn child were my concern. I really didn't care Leslie was upset. My wife was irate that I made Leslie miss out. Another example, we were watching Leslie play in a local kid's sport. I asked her, "Do you think our kid will be athletic, artistic, enjoy science or math?" She said, "This is Leslie's moment. We shouldn't make it about someone who isn't even here." Wow. Leslie was on the field. We were sitting in the stands. We had both waved to her, held up our sign for her, everything. I just wanted to talk about our baby. When her bump was really showing, she would always show it off to anyone who wanted to look. Her family, friends, siblings, etc. "Do you want to see my bump? I'm huge. So excited. I can't believe it's only X more weeks." They all touch her bump, talk to her, etc. Her parents come and read or tell back in the day stories. They go to the beach, 1,000 bump pictures posted on her friends' social media accounts. So ready to be an honorary auntie. Her sister said, "Wife puts the B in bump and beautiful." If we go out together, she wears the loosest clothes, so I don't see it. I'll even see her pull her shirt down when she sees me come into the room. She sat on me the other day after being playful in bed. Her bump was right in my face. I ran my hands up and said, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You already are a great mom to Leslie. I can't wait to see you as our family grows." This was one of the first times I was really able to feel her bump, so I rested my hand there and said, "I love you so much already. I'm so excited to meet you. I hope you have your mom's eyes." She moved off of me and said, "I know ex-partner had a bigger bump than me. I bet it was fun seeing Leslie move all the time. You don't have to act like you care. I know you've done this before."
What?
She just seems incredibly jealous. I said, "I don't think about it that way. Leslie is special, but this is a completely new and different special because it was with her and our baby was someone completely new and special." Literally took the words out of my mouth. She began to leave the room and I could see her shoulders shake from crying. I am 100% positive she is not cheating, nor has she ever. I just cannot wrap my head around why she doesn't want me to be happy about this. The rest of the time is completely normal as long as I don't mention the baby. She's affectionate, initiates intimacy, brags about what a good husband I am and how great I've made this pregnancy. We plan for our future, have date nights, everything else. Unfortunately, we had a fight where I snapped. I had a break between clients at work, so I went to a local baby store and got a lot of things off of her list and Pinterest board. I came home and surprised her with flowers, a prenatal message certificate, and her favorite food, as well as the baby item. She seemed very grateful, but when I came home, the items were no longer there. She said she returned it to buy Leslie stuff, as she was going to feel left out.
There's so many things to return. Getting your wife like all these thoughtful gifts, and then
She
you
just
come home,
returns
she's
them.
like, "Yeah, I returned all of it."
I lost it. I cried for the first time in our marriage and yelled that having a child with her was the worst mistake I've ever made. That at least my deadbeat ex gave me the chance to know my unborn child.
Oh, wow. Okay. Jeez.
That I
Dagger.
didn't care about the baby because she wouldn't even let me bond with it. I do care, have since she told me, that I hope she was as miserable as she made me and that she better be prepared for a custody dispute.
Whoa.
She's a stay-at-home mom for Leslie. She simply said, "I know you don't care about the baby, but I'll die before you take my baby from me." What?
No.
I have begged her to let me interact with her/our baby. I asked her if her therapist had any insight onto why she's being like this. She said no, that she isn't doing anything. I told her what I said above, and she said I had those experiences already, so it shouldn't matter. I asked her if the baby was mine. I know it is. I was just being mean. She threw her phone at me and said, "Yes, go through it. I'll do a paternity test, whatever you need." I just called her parents and asked them to go to our house as we're having a disagreement and went to a hotel. I do not want to stress her or our unborn child. I really want to repair this, but I truly don't know how. I'm staying at an Airbnb for now until we can figure this out, but I truly don't know what to do. I miss her like crazy, and I can't even begin to understand why she wants to behave this way. I have apologized for what I said, but I can't take back what I said, and I worry about when our baby is born if she will even want to be a family with me or let me have anything to do with our baby. I spoke with a mutual friend who says she is very distraught and says she can't be a single mom, loves me, but her actions prove the opposite time and time again, even when I beg for change. And there are some comments and an update, but I have so many thoughts.
Sheesh.
Based off of her actions, it does seem like maybe these were the underlying thoughts that she was having, and he just kind of voiced them out loud for her. And this is, again, like, she is causing these problems. However, I still think if we had communicated after that first kind of initial reactions of not letting him come to the appointments, trying to push him away from anything baby related, if he had just said, "Hey, like, what is going on? Why are you acting this way? Let's have a conversation," I don't think there would have been this big of a blow up.
And if he voiced it in the beginning, then it wouldn't have to get to this point.
There are some comments. Individual Fox says, "You two need couples therapy immediately. You should have started it after her first or second comment. You've known for months things weren't right. Also, call her OB and explain what's going on. Ask them to make a record of her shift in behavior and stress that she's never done anything like this before getting pregnant." OP says, "I should have. I stupidly attributed it to hormones and other issues that come with pregnancy. She was sick for most of her pregnancy and for a lot of it actually lost weight and was constantly hungry but couldn't eat and became very body conscious. She's doing much better now and is a healthy weight, and I genuinely thought it would get better. It's much easier to see in hindsight that the first few comments were deeper than that." Reds Rock says, "Don't be hard on yourself. You couldn't have known it would escalate to this, but do take action now so that you can both fix this. You absolutely can. Your love for each other is so plain to read. I'm certain you can get this back on track and start enjoying this together. I really don't know why she could be shutting you out, other than protecting herself by telling herself it's not special to you because that's what she fears. But it sounds like clinical anxiety because she has no reason to fear that until the argument. You've done everything you could to reassure her. I so hope this works out for you all. And Opie says, I love her dearly. It hurts to see the comments and messages about her or I being horrible. We are both making mistakes. My comment's more of a mistake than anything she has ever done, but I do love her, and I don't want to think she has a master plot to keep my baby away. This change was like night and day for me. She always talked about the future and how great of a sister Elle will be. By the way, you guys can be great viewers by joining us live every weekday at 3 p.m. PST on YouTube. Just tap our profile.
You could be our sibling if you tap our profile.
But there's an update 28 days later. It's been about a month since I posted. This is a bit long because so many kind Redditors reached out and gave me advice and shared their experiences and asked for an update. After I posted and stewed for a little while and had a couple drinks, I called my father-in-law. He and my wife are very close and I respect his opinion. He has been married for a very long time and seems to have a happy marriage and has good relationships all around with his family. I didn't specify what issues we were having, but he was over at my house while I was staying in an Airbnb, so it was no secret we were having problems. He has more of a traditional marriage and at some point asked what I had to lose by putting pressure on her to talk. I said I feared I would push her away more, and he pretty much told me that I was living in a separate house than my pregnant wife, freaking out about a potential divorce. What did I have to lose? He advised me to be a man and come back to my house and lay it on the line. I told him I'd be coming over the next day. They asked if they could take Leslie to buy some sparklers for the upcoming holiday and spend the night at their house. I agreed, and when I went to my house the next day, I came in with flowers and stuff to make dinner. My wife asked what I was doing there, to which I replied, I live there.
He's like in his house and she's like, what are you doing
She's
here?
like, how did you get in here?
Yeah.
And would like to sit down and talk. I gave a long apology for my actions and words. When I finished, I said it was her turn to tell me what was going on. She tried to claim nothing, that everything was okay, girl.
Okay.
After a while, I said,
Oh.
my heart is broken and that we have been through some tough things together, fought for each other, and now you sit here and lie to my face. We both sat there and she cried for about 30 minutes until eventually she said she felt like our relationship would end if she was honest.
It's coming, it's coming, it's coming.
I said I would hear her out no matter what.
The truth.
She admitted it was hard that this would be her first kid and not mine. She didn't think it would bother her, and it didn't until she was pregnant, and that she laid in bed at night thinking if my ex would have wanted to raise Leslie, would we still be a family together and she wouldn't matter. She expressed that seeing me emotional about our baby or wanting to touch her bump or treat her made her think of me and my ex, and how I had already did all of the things she was excited to do with me. Near the beginning of her pregnancy, she had told a close friend that she couldn't wait to have a baby with her soulmate, and her friend replied that she didn't think soulmates had other children or baby mamas, that it was two people meant only for each other. She was very upset and asked if I thought we were soulmates like she did. She described herself and our unborn child as my sloppy second family. That no one grew up dreaming of having kids by multiple different people, that she was just the substitute when the family I wanted didn't work out. She also shared she had found some old images of my ex on social media and could not stop comparing her pregnant body. She feared the baby wouldn't be an equal to Leslie in my eyes. It worried her when I would ask what she thought the baby would be like, that what if the baby was disabled or didn't like to do the things we enjoyed as a family, or the baby and Leslie didn't like each other. She said at one point she found herself wishing I had never had Leslie, so she wouldn't have to worry as much. And that is when she knew she had to really put in the extra effort to maintain a relationship with Leslie. She feared that between work and Leslie, I wouldn't have time and wouldn't bond with the baby, like in the article she read online, where fathers didn't bond with their children until they were able to do things with the family. When I did try and bond with the baby, she worried the baby wouldn't live up to Leslie. I have never been shy about saying how much being a father means to me, and how raising Leslie has been the highlight of my life, along with marrying my wife and now having our child together. She said it was initially what made her confident in marrying me and excited to have a big family with me, but now constantly wondered if her pregnancy and this baby would be a highlight or a burden for me, because the stress is the same time, but the newness wasn't. And then what if a newborn and then toddler wouldn't be as interesting to me as Leslie, who is capable of doing activities? She showed me a million articles of different men explaining they didn't bond with their children until 4+ years old. She also showed me the videos where people say things they did with their first kid and then get more relaxed as they have more children. She said it freaked her out because it was clear people stopped caring the more children they had. She said that there were times she felt she was ruining our family and coming between me and Leslie. For example, at the zoo, she said she cried on the way to the hospital. She was afraid Leslie would hate her and resent the baby for cutting our zoo time short, and that I would be upset that I was spending my time off work at the hospital instead of doing the activities we planned with Leslie. While I work, Leslie and my wife spend a lot of time out of the house. Library, local parks, etc. One of their favorite activities is biking together, and we bike together on weekends as well. We have lots of local trails, but due to her pregnancy, she has not been able to. We've been doing more indoor activities. My wife said that when I'm at work, Leslie kept saying she hated her because she didn't get to go on her new bike as often anymore. I said I would discuss it with her because that's unacceptable, but also she's like 5. As a person who's babysat a lot of young kids, sometimes they just tell you that they hate you. And then like 2 seconds later, they're like, I love you. Yeah. My wife asked me not to since there would be so many changes for Elle soon, and it hurt her because she missed biking together as well. A couple of months ago, my wife asked me and Leslie if we wanted to read stories together. Leslie chose the first story I read, and my wife chose the second, her favorite childhood story, for me to read to the baby and Leslie, since it helps promote brain activity and helps with bonding. After that, I read another book of Leslie's choosings, and while I was at work the next day, Leslie ripped the pages out of the book my wife chose. She said she was going to tell me, but her friend, same friend who says we aren't soulmates,
I'm so mad at that friend.
Get that friend out of there. Said I would think she was making it up and that it seemed to her she was trying to come between me and Leslie. I asked her why she didn't tell me any of this, and she explained that she didn't feel comfortable telling me because her thoughts didn't even make sense to her. She wanted me to spend time with Leslie so she didn't feel left out or jealous, and when I did, she felt upset I wasn't spending more time with her. She loves Leslie but wishes we had our first kid together. She wants me around but also feels upset and guilty when I give her/our unborn baby attention. She said she feared that I would think she was trying to come between me and Leslie when she wasn't. By the time I realized something was truly wrong and started to ask what was wrong, if she needed therapy, etc., she said she realized she was acting poorly, but didn't want to admit to herself that she missed out on a lot with me, and doubled down as it was hard to face that she made her fears reality by pushing me away and not letting me care, and that she couldn't start over, that her first pregnancy was a somewhat bad experience because of her own actions.
And then she doubled down.
At this point, I realized how terrible I had been. I apologized for making her feel like she couldn't come to me about anything. She said when she researched her feelings, she found a bunch of forums where people were calling the poster evil for their feelings about their stepchild and feared I would feel the same. I mean, we have awful thoughts all the time. We have these awful thoughts that will, leak into our brain, and it's just about what we act on.
I can't even admit these to myself, let alone my partner, who I fear that these fears are real and actualized for.
She said if I had told her I felt about Leslie the way she felt about Leslie, that it would make her angry and upset, so she couldn't see how I wouldn't be. We both cried for a long time. I tried to reassure her. I told her how much I loved her, how excited I was, that she was the family of my choosing and my soulmate, that the universe knew that Leslie and I needed her, which is why circumstances allowed us to be a family. She apologized for the way she treated me and said that she wanted to make it right. She said she had wanted to apologize when I was beginning to have my meltdown, but was surprised when I yelled and realized she might have messed up beyond repair to get that reaction from me. We continued to cry for a long time, and she asked if I wanted to feel the baby.
Yay.
We're coming back, guys.
We're coming back.
Of course, I said yes to wanting to feel the baby, and we cried even more. It turned out to be a great evening. I made us dinner, and we laughed about how I was so stressed I went to Reddit for advice. She wanted to read the post and cried again when she did. I reassured her we could move past this, and she said she felt less horrible as she read some of the comments from women in her shoes. It was a bit awkward the first week after so many months of tension. I knew things were turning around when she woke me up by whispering, "Baby wants blueberry pancakes." That Saturday. I don't think I've ever prepared pancakes so fast.
So cute. So cute.
I love this.
So cute.
I couldn't keep the smile off my face. We ended up going to a pool party.
Hey, show
for
off that baby bump.
a few days later, and she let me choose her swimsuit. Okay.
Ooh.
A big deal for someone who only wore baggy clothes around me. We took family pictures, and the universe is clearly on my side because on the way home, she asked me to feel her belly, and our baby was hiccuping. Something I have never felt before, and it was a first we could share together.
Oh.
She has even let me help her when she's sick without making an excuse about Leslie. I've learned that when she comes and puts her back to me and lifts her arm, that is my cue to lift her belly up. I now spend a lot of time rubbing and talking to her belly and rubbing her feet, legs, back, shoulders, hips. Haha. She is sore everywhere at this point. The first 500 times, it made me cry. It has been such a relief to be involved. I never thought being tasked with acquiring the most random food items at 2 a.m. would be a great time for me, but it is. It still sucks that I missed out on a lot. I think it sucks for her too. She gets emotional and says a weight has been lifted off of her and things are so much easier. And she's upset that she didn't talk to me sooner. I have been working to fix some of my wife's guilt. I realized there was a lot of simple fixes. For example, I was able to go to my local bike shop and get a pull behind trailer. Now I pull her in that and she can use a small fan and ice packs and Leslie can ride her bike. I have taken off work so I can spend more time with them both. We are all in therapy and
Yay.
thankfully Leslie's therapist is continuing to say she is securely attached to both of us.
Huge. Very huge.
Enjoys the time we spent together, is coping very well. Some of her behavior was due to another situation, which we have resolved. And she is excited to be a big sister. My wife was terrified that maybe she could sense her attitude shift, but her therapist says that she only had one complaint about my wife, that she forgot her candy one time, and then it took 32 whole minutes for the store to deliver it. My wife is in therapy working to overcome the negative feelings she has. That is pretty much where we are now.
Happy ending alert.
This is great.
I'm so happy.
We're getting very close to baby time and working hard to finish preparing. My wife still needs reassurance. There are a lot of times she brings up my ex, and I've found bringing up our first helps. For example, she will ask about certain things and how it was for me. I'll say, I don't want to talk about that, and steer the conversation to us. Do you remember our first house, first vacation, first kiss, date? Remember that time, blah, blah. It made me fall more in love with you.
That's sweet. That he's like
That's the
orienting
thing.
her to their
Yes.
first.
Do you remember when you and Leslie made me blah? That is still one of my prized possessions. It upsets me that my wife suffered for so long. I believe saying it out loud took a lot of power away from her feelings. I think most people know how badly it feels when you have thoughts that don't feel like your own when you're going through a mentally taxing time. I really should have stood up for a relationship and her mental health way sooner. I accepted her brushing me off for far too long when I should have realized she needed help. I appreciate everyone who reached out or offered advice. I posted this in detail with my wife's permission. She hopes that it helps someone out there struggling with the same feelings she felt. And there are some comments. Procrastinating. Great update, OP. I remember your post. Speaking as a therapist, you're very right about one thing in particular. Saying it out loud took a lot of power away from her feelings.
Yes.
When people feel alone with things, the insecurities mount and multiply. A lot of people really underestimate the power of being curious, empathetic, and interested in our loved ones' emotional experiences and POV.
Yes.
What a great comment.
Yes.
Communication is so key too. Us stereotypically says, I wonder how is your wife moving forward regarding her friend?
Yes,
That's what I want to know.
important.
Seems she didn't even consider having these insecurities before she had a snake in her ear. OP says, we have disinvited this friend from our home.
Good.
Love that. It's hard to cut her out as she's part of my wife's larger friend group. My wife was unsure as this friend has went through some hard things lately. However, recently my wife hosted a girls' night and her friends were arriving as I was leaving. I told her she looked beautiful and wished them a good time. When I arrived back, my wife told me this friend said in front of the whole group that I may be saying kind things to her now, but after some changes after birth, I won't describe here. I will be after her. My wife said that was an unkind and untrue thing to say, and she said it was a joke. I made it very clear to my wife that I did not want her around, as we are in an emotionally vulnerable time, and this person clearly does not wish us well, and she agreed. And that is the end of that story.
Happy ending.
Happy ending.